Hello, and welcome to the FI Entrepreneur, Financial Planning for the Risk Taker. This podcast will show you how to achieve FI through entrepreneurial pursuits by developing a well-calibrated and thought-out plan for risk management so that you can maximize the rewards.
Hosted by certified financial planner, enrolled agent, and serial entrepreneur Ben Martinek, this is the FI Entrepreneur, Financial Planning for the Risk Taker.
The information presented in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. None of the content is presented as investment advice. Consult your financial professional before acting on any of the information presented in this show. Hello and welcome, everyone. This is Ben and Deb. Today, we've got a fantastic episode for you, something we're super excited about. Part of the reason why we're so excited is we're about to go do it and live it. Our focus today is on FI and why we FI. Like, why are we pursuing this ourselves? We thought we'd share a little bit about that with you. And one of the immediate perks that we're getting as a benefit of some of the pursuits that we've had over the many years, we just thought we'd share it with you, partially because we're so excited about it ourselves, but partially because we want to, I suppose, inspire and encourage you to keep focusing and driving after your own goals and ambitions and dreams so you can slowly see those become a reality. Because I suppose we can share a little bit of a milestone in our own financial success and life. What is that milestone, Deb? What are we going to be doing here soon?
Well, first, before I get to that, I just want to point out that maybe you'll be able to hear this on the podcast. Ben here is smoking his pipe because I wish you could see this. It's such a great image because we are this close to going on our 4-week off adventure. And so as part of a way to kick this off, Ben's smoking a pipe to prepare himself for the upcoming trip we've got going.
That's right. I'm feeling pretty good, folks. So just watch out. So who knows what this episode might bring today. So yeah, I mean, if you didn't catch that, we're going away for 4 weeks. We're going to take some time off and we're going to go camping in our mid-90s pop-up camper.
Our vintage pop-up camper with all of the mid-90s decor that you can imagine. Lots of teal and kind of a light pink motif we've got going on the inside of our camper, but it is absolutely delightful. We did this last summer. We took a 5-week trip, and 4 of those 5 weeks we spent living in our pop-up camper, which was just a great delight. We logged probably close to 5,000 miles on our trip last year. And this year, we're not going quite as much. It's only about 2,000 miles, 2,500 miles maybe total. But we're going to be residing in our pop-up camper for the duration of 4 weeks, which should be pretty fun.
Yeah, I'm loving it. I'm so looking forward to it. We're going to be doing a lot of camping, and we've been buying some new kitchen utensils, like a big 17-inch skillet that we're going to throw over the fire. And we've got a number of things. We won't go into all the details of our camping excursion, but why are we bringing this up and why are we excited about it? Because we were taking our mid-90s pop-up camper and we're going to tow it by our early 2000s Chevy Suburban, this 2004 Chevy Suburban. Neither of which is a head turner, folks. You will not be looking at us going down the road and be like, man.
I wish I was that.
Yeah. But you know what? You actually probably should be wishing, yeah, you were that, because we're taking 4 weeks off and we're going to go have ourselves a nice little perk and a little break from some of the stress and headache that it is to be a business owner. And how did we pull this off? Like, how have we achieved this? Well, I think the answer of it really sums it up well. I mean, there's a lot of answers that could sum it up well, but one that certainly speaks to it. And it really resonates with a podcast episode that we had listened to a while back, but I just simply loved. But the one answer that sums it up well is simplicity. Simplicity. We live a simple life, folks. I mean, we're not destitute by any means. Maybe one might wonder if you're driving around in an early 2000s Chevy Suburban and a mid-90s pop-up camper. Perhaps, I don't know, but is that destitute? I don't know. You guys tell me. Is that where are we at?
I think it's living the dream, personally, right. Because that's what we're doing. We're living the dream, and we are content and happy as can be with the simplicity that's afforded to us by having our 2004 Suburban and our 1993 pop-up camper. It's a great foundation for us to be able to have these adventures that we're going to do and make incredible memories with our family.
Yeah, our little girls, we're going to go love on them a whole bunch in the next 4 weeks. So what was that podcast episode that I had referenced earlier? It's JD Stein. Which one? What's it called there, Deb?
It's episode 352. Is this the key to wealth, freedom, and happiness that JD talked about? This was an episode that aired back in August of 2021.
And the podcast is Money for the Rest of Us. So good folks, if you don't listen to Money for the Rest of Us, I encourage you to take a moment and download it and have it as one of those items that you listen to JD has got just a lot of good pearls of wisdom that he drops in his podcast, and he's been doing it for quite a while. But the focus in that podcast episode was just on whether or not we find happiness in simplicity, because simplicity tends itself to lead more towards stability and permanence. And it's kind of a weird thing because on one hand, I want to tell you, go and shoot for the moon and stretch yourself, dream as big as you can dream, and just see what you can accomplish. Don't hold yourself back. Be ambitious, right? And I think those are all good things. And in many ways, things that we're working on and executing ourselves in our own life. But on the other hand, boy, I tell you what, sometimes I think maybe we overshoot and we have too big of a dream and we just put too much on ourselves. And then we have expectations that we got to achieve so many things. And many times those expectations can require or be suggestive of material accomplishments. I have to have a house of such size. I need to have a car of such an age. I need to be having so much put away into my 401k and have a balance of that. And da-da-da-da-da. And there's just all these things that we need to be getting accomplished. And then as we accomplish them, we always feel or can be felt like we're still missing. Like we just still don't have what we have or what we're wanting to have. Because there's just the cruel reality that material accomplishments really just aren't that satisfying. And then we put these goals upon ourselves and these goals are just stressing us out. So we end up stressing ourselves out for stuff that just doesn't make you happy. And we thought we'd talk a little bit about today on ultimately why is it that we are focused on FI? I mean, Deb, why do you think we have a focus on simple living? What's it all about for us?
I think with simplicity in living and also financial independence, there's this focus. We're striving for a life of independence or freedom. When there's more simplicity in your life, you're living like driving a 2004 Suburban. It gets us from point A to B quite comfortably. It just might not be as attractive as the newer model, but there's a simplicity in owning that freedom. And we also don't have payments that we have to pay for this thing. You know, there's a lot of gratitude and appreciation I have for that, and that it's a tool for our use and for our consumption, and it serves its purpose very well, but it's not costing us a lot of additional money, which is really great. So the simplicity and freedom, there's so much in this notion to consider. You know, both Ben and I come from pretty humble backgrounds where my parents would always say, well, we'd like to do X, Y, or Z, but you kids need braces. So we're not going to do any of those things, because those things were important, like having straighter teeth so that I could chew my food and smile beautifully was really important versus having, a concrete driveway, for example, So simplicity and just appreciating, well, these are the things that we'd like to have versus these are the things that we need. And being able to strive and focus on those parameters can be really liberating. When you know what your boundaries are, that can provide a great framework for your expression of your lifestyle.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, why am I pursuing FI, and why would I intentionally keep things simple? Because we could, for what it's worth, we could afford more. I mean, we could spend more on a newer car, could probably afford a bigger camper, could afford a bigger home. But why are we choosing not to pursue those things? Because it is a choice, and it's a happy choice. I'm glad we're choosing not to. The reality is that the bigger your goal and the bigger your ambition and the more daunting it is, on one hand, it will give you something to look back at in your life to say, wow, look at what I accomplished and where things are at. There's value to that. And certainly one of the driving factors to us, and certainly behind my daily work, is I want to be able to look back at my life and have a sense of pride. But the other thing that comes into all this is, dang it, you got to work your butt off. And it's just lots and lots of work. And the more simple of a life you live, the eventual real freedom in this is, look, you don't have to work as much. Like, you can stop working, and look, you can take a month off. We're about to take a month off, and it's going to be fine. Like, it'll be perfectly fine. In fact, not just because I'm able to take the time off, but it's not going to disrupt anything. Like, it's not like we're going through a midlife crisis here. I mean, like, we're throwing, what's the expression? Like throwing caution to the wind. Okay, I got it.
He got it right, folks. This is great.
We're not throwing caution to the wind and just being like, whatever, we're just going to do this. It's been paid for, it's planned for, it's all in the works. And heck yeah, we're going to go out and sport our mid-90s pop-up camper and do a whole lot of nothing for a month's time and just enjoy nature and being together as a family and just doing fun activities. I'm looking forward to the things that we have planned with our little girls. But I think if anybody has little kids, and our girls aren't quite little kids anymore, they're 7 and 5, so they're quickly growing up on us. But they really, They're content with a scooter, on pavement. I mean, as long as the pavement isn't too rocky, it's like, all right, this is awesome. Could go up back and forth in the campground all day long. So yeah, we're looking forward to this, and it's just great to have the fruits of FI paying off for us. But it's coming not in a glamorous way. It's coming in this pursuit of simplicity, in this pursuit of we're walking away from our home and still have to make that mortgage payment, but no big deal. That's just fine. And, slowly we'll have this house paid off here and just another thing off the books. And truthfully, in my own pursuit, my own desires, hopefully we'll have not just one of these a year, but maybe multiple ones of these a year up and coming, so that we don't work as much. Because I really think, that, I think our modern society, I just think there's too much of a drive, too much of a push to work more. And we're enticed to do so, really, deluded in doing so, thinking that if I do have that newer car, that newer house, that bigger property, whatever it might be, maybe it is the big RV, that's going to make you happy. And boy, the book that's coming to mind here for me is FI Extreme by Jacob Lungfisker. He just made a comment in one of his books. It's a little bit of amusing, philosophical musings on just life. And, some of it's a little more difficult it's not as palatable. But one of the things he brought is like, man, to get all those things, that means you just have to work for all those things. It's just all the more work you're committing yourself to doing. So I don't know, Deb, what are your thoughts on this whole work angle when it comes to FI?
Work serves a valuable purpose, and it can be very life-giving whenever you're giving of yourself and putting yourself into your work. But whenever it begins taking over your life instead of being an outflow of who you are as a person, then that's when you get your drag, and that's when you get emotional unsatisfaction about things, and where it's a lot easier to look at things in a bleak or maybe negative lens. Now, I will say one of my literal strengths is positivity, so it's hard for me to get down in some of these things. I'm just, this is an opportunity for growth, or this is just an obstacle to work through, and you'll come out better and stronger on the other side. But when you're working for the sake of work and not for what your additional, maybe you shouldn't even call them extracurricular pursuits, but what you'd like your lifestyle designed to be, then they can work very, very well together, pun intended, work. But you don't want work to be the driver of everything that you're pursuing. We want our work to funnel into our design for our life and what we want to be accomplished with our relationships, with the people around us, so that it can fund those pursuits, so to speak. But it cannot be the end all be all of our life. Like, are you going to live to work, or are you going to work to live?
For sure, yeah. So, there is an issue. Is work satisfying? I think if any one of us was in a situation where we didn't have anything to do, we'd struggle to find meaning and purpose and value in our life. But it isn't the end all and be all. And I think that's a point that most of you folks are intuitively grasp. It's certainly one that I do. Nobody, I think we've brought this up on the podcast, but it's worth bringing up again. And certainly it's worth bringing up if we haven't brought it up. But, when people look back at their lives, they don't look back and be like, gosh, I wish I had spent more time in the office. That's a literal question they ask in these surveys, or it's a literal comment that people make of, maybe I spent too much time in the office, but no one desires that they would have wished to have worked more. So why do we pursue FI? We do it because it's simple. It's simple. Like, I want to keep things simple. I don't want it to get complicated. It just makes things more achievable and more manageable. And really, like, in terms of a grander financial plan, we struggle. This is going back to JD Steins' podcast on permanence, which was really quite inspiring. And again, the notion behind this podcast today, we struggle with being out of control. And the greater your financial plan, the greater your ambition, the bigger goal that you're seeking, that's ultimately means you're more and more dependent on things outside of your control to help that financial plan come into success. And ultimately, we are not in control of the universe. We're not in control of everything. And so as we expand our financial plan, our ambitions, now things kind of have to go our way in order for us to get things the way we want them to go, in order for us to achieve that goal, or really for us maybe to be happy. And we're putting like an undue pressure or stress on ourselves, and maybe just really establishing an unrealistic possibility that things that are outside of our control need to start going our way. They just won't. Most of life isn't in our control. I think it's all of you, certainly I know, and I think all of you would agree to, right? Most of our life isn't in our control. And so It's a funny combination here of entrepreneurship, which I would want to encourage and say, go shoot for the moon, like stretch yourself, don't hold back. But on the other hand, like, let's not get crazy, right? About what you think you're going to go out and accomplish for yourself, and recognize that really the more modest our goals, the more achievable they'll be, and the less we'll have to work for them, and the less we become dependent on other things outside of our control to help that come into play. And the easier it will be for you to find contentment, the easier it will be for you to find permanence and stability in your life, because we're going to be limiting more and more our need for things to go our way for the things that are out of our control. I think that's what's great. I mean, I love the simplicity of our mid-90s camper. I love the simplicity of our early 2000s Suburban with lots of miles on it. Why do I love that? Because I don't have to work as hard for those. And I can go and take this time away. We can take this time away and enjoy ourselves. And, it's going to be a simple enjoyment, probably just a lot of time sitting around the campfire and seeing what kind of good grub we can cook up for ourselves. And, probably walking with the kids as they ride their bikes, or maybe riding the bikes with them, and just really spending time with each other. There won't be anything remarkable about it. No one's going to look at us and say, man, gosh, look at them. They got everything. Like, in fact, we're going to be on the low side of the campground, right? Whenever we roll in, everybody, we're looking at like, man, everyone's got a nicer camper than we do. But I don't know, Dad, would you want it any other way?
I would not want it any other way. We will be living the dream. As I like to say when people say, how's it going? Living the dream. We will be living the dream when we're out on our journey here, or we leave just next week, living the dream with our vintage equipment, but making wonderful memories with our girls. And that's the beauty of when you look at the FI and the FI entrepreneur, the financial independence, because there's this notion of that independence and that freedom and being able to experience those things without worry, without anxiety, versus when you look at the notion or the concept of wealth, going from financial dependence to wealth, because they are very much intimately tied together, but we can find wealth distracting versus financial independence. Like, I'm not going to be distracted when I'm going for early morning walks, drinking my cup of coffee from our French press, warmed up over the campfire. Like, this is going to be pretty grand. But when you consider the intimacy with which it's tied to wealth, there can be some distraction there. So, Ben, would you say that you find wealth distracting?
No, I don't think so, actually. And I think maybe the pursuit of it can be distracting. The pursuit of wealth can be exhausting, quite frankly, which is part of why I think you shouldn't have your pursuits be quite so grand. Because we can keep pushing harder and harder and grow, and we can get bigger paychecks and more coming home. And, again, we can buy that nicer house and that nicer car and that nicer camper and whatever it is, have those nicer vacations. I mean, there's certainly going to be more extravagant places for someone to vacation that we'll be going. And quite frankly, if you can afford that, good for you. I mean, good on you. And for those who have seen higher degree of financial success, by all means, if you can afford it, go enjoy yourself. What else is the point of achieving this and acquiring it if it isn't for either you to enjoy it or to give it away? I mean, you're not taking it with you, as we all know, right? It's not coming with us. And we don't get any gold stars at the end of our life. And if someone put a gold star on your tombstone and be like, oh, wow, you made a lot of money, nobody's really going to care. I mean, the reality is, maybe I'm just coming into my midlife crisis or reflections, but give it another 30 or 40 years and few people are going to even, I don't know if I'll even be around here anymore, but my impact on the life will begin to fade. And I don't know, give it another 70 or 80 years and people are going to forget about me. I mean, just look back at your own grandparents and great-grandparents. I mean, how well do you know them, right, folks? I mean, in just a few generations, you're just going to be a prior distant relative in your family lineage of it. Someone will be like, oh, maybe they started a business, and that's as far as it goes. So go make those memories, make those impacts, and treasure life. And I think one of the ways to do that is by keeping your expectations, your ambitions reined in, and keeping a focus on simplicity. That's really why I love the focus on the FI movement. It's about ultimately trying to find satisfaction, not in our work or in material goods, but just in life. And that's what we're going to do. We'll let you know how it all goes. Hopefully we're coming back a little more refreshed. We're right on the verge of departing at this point in time, but looking forward to that break. And hope you're able to work these sort of goals into your life as well. We certainly would want you to have these successes that you can celebrate And if you're wanting to know how have we gotten this to be where we've gotten it, what's been our recipe, well, part of it's certainly starting our own business. Like, it's not easy to go and take a whole month off and being able to say, look, I'm going to cut off. And thankfully, we've got some really good staff members. They're going to help step up while we're away. For what it's worth, we are giving them similar opportunities to take time off and be away and have time with their family too. So it's not just us, who are taking some downtime. So, being an entrepreneur, like, this is one of the perks of deciding to start your business and plot your own destiny, is that you can work this into your situation. But we've also been able to achieve it because we've always been pretty moderate, I think, in terms of our material ambitions and what we're seeking to have. There's, again, really nothing that we own that would deserve much attention or notice, and not really much that you would go and brag about. And you know what? That's perfectly fine with me. Like, that's just fine. Like, I'm not out to go and impress anybody. I'm going to go have a great time with my wife and my kids and my family. And I don't know. We'll see what the next month or so turns out for us. What do you think, honey?
I can't wait. It's going to be an exciting journey. Incidentally, if you'd like to follow along, although I know this podcast episode won't be published until probably after we're back, you can look through our archives. We used to have a blog whenever we were truck drivers, and the name of it is very original. It's truckyoufor2.blogspot.com. And we resurrected it last year when we went on our 5-week road trip, and we're going to be doing the same thing here. So if you have any interest in looking through our archives of when we were truck drivers, which was our initial pursuit of financial independence so that we could literally drive down our debt, you can look at the adventures that we're going to be having on our vacation on there as well.
Awesome. Well, good, folks. You keep up the good work. Keep working on focusing on FI and entrepreneurship. Today's focus obviously was more on the FI of the FI entrepreneur and how we're achieving and accomplishing that in our lives. We'll certainly come back to other episodes on entrepreneurship, but shoot, I'm telling you, we're right on the verge of a break. So let's give the entrepreneur, we're going to go put that on the shelf for a little bit and just let it sit there, and we'll pick it back up. Don't worry. We'll be coming back to work. We're not done with that. But right now we're going to go live that FI piece up and have a grand old time. So yeah, follow us on the blog. I think that we'll be doing some posting, and then we'll have future episodes your way. Hope you are achieving this in your own life. If you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to us, send us some thoughts or inquiries. Maybe we can respond to some of those, or even look at how we might be able to provide some guidance for what we had done in our own life. We can help to bring that about in your life as well.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. I hope you've had as much fun as we did. If you'd like to learn more about any of the subjects we spoke about, please visit our website for show notes, links, and more. Hit like, subscribe, or whatever button you've got in front of you to show some love. Remember, the information presented in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only.
Remember what Teddy Roosevelt said about the person who strives greatly. If he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Until next time, keep striving.
Thanks again, and be well.